you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And it is for the players. It's not just a game. A game is Monopoly. A game is, you know, Scrabble. A game is, you know, any video game. This is much different. In fact, a lot of world-class players actually call it sport. And they have Olympiad every 2 years from around the world. It's quite the deal. It's huge. I wish it was bigger in this area, but we're going to try to change that.
Just a few reasons why John Cordisco started the Broome County Chess Championship nearly 4 years ago. Players got together in Binghamton to compete for a big trophy and prize at Cordisco's Chess Center on Shenango Street Saturday.
When you're playing chess on tournament day, you forget about everything else in life, and all you worry about is 32 pieces and 64 squares.
Games run through Sunday with nearly a dozen people competing this weekend. There are 2 categories, open and reserve, for players of different skill levels. Many hope championships like these will bring more people to the game.
There are now ways to play that are kind of high-tech on the internet, but it's really a very old game, and I don't know why it doesn't. I think we just need someone like Fischer to give chess a shot in the arm.
For the younger people, I think that's a great thing because they really have to think, and you know, when they're on Facebook or they're playing their video games and that, it just becomes second nature, but this really makes them think.
But the event means more to Cordisco than just handing out trophies. Every year, he holds it in honor of his brother Francis, keeping his memory alive.
My youngest brother, he wasn't a chess player, he was a hockey goalie. He was a good one too, but he passed away a couple of years ago. My parents were pretty emotional when I first did it, and his 2 boys, my nephews, you know, they know about it, and they really appreciate it. It's pretty cool. It's just something that I do, you know, to honor him. It's sad in a way, but it also isn't, too, that he still carries on.
Building blocks of a tradition that means so much to so many in the Southern Tier, and one that Cordisco hopes will make chess big again. In Binghamton, Elise Michelanis.
Hi folks, John Cordisco back again from Cordisco's Chess Center in Binghamton, New York with another great chess video for you. This is a game that I played in round 2 of the Broome County Chess Championship Francis Cordisco Memorial, named after my youngest brother who passed away a few years back. It's one of the biggest tournaments in this part of the state, in the Southern Tier as we call it here. The turnout wasn't as great as it should have been, but the quality of players I think was outstanding. I know for this area in the open section, which is the section above me, I'm in the reserve, which is under 1700. The lowest rated player on the open was only 100 points lower than an expert, was almost 1900. So there's some very good players here for such a small tournament. And it got a lot of publicity. You'll see I'll put one of the clips from the TV interviews with some of the players and myself. It got 3 TV stations to cover it and got a really nice picture and description in the local newspaper as well. So let's get to it. I'm white. Black is Bob McGinnis. Gentleman lives in Elmira, just down Route 17 from here in Binghamton. And we play quite often, Bobby and I. I was kidding with him at the beginning of this game. I called it, okay, get ready for Super Fight 26. He's played in a lot of my tournaments. He's a really good guy too. And you'll see why I call this video What the Hell Was I Thinking here shortly. I was white. I'm not a D4 player as a rule, but I thought I'd give it a shot just to mix things up a little bit. I frankly getting tired of playing E4 and seeing a lot of Sicilians. So I'm going to go for the first few moves here just to get things going here. Oh, my computer a little bit screwy. There we go. I went bishop g5. I'm just developing pieces. I mean, this isn't any outstanding modern theory by any stretch of the imagination. He played e6. And I'm going to go through the next few moves here fairly quickly. We're just developing pieces here. There's nothing really to talk about. He challenged my bishop here. I had thought about taking, but I'd rather leave the tension. I backed the bishop up. He moved this knight to there, which kind of surprised me. That should have told me what his move was coming up with the c-pawn. It kind of hinders the movement of the light squared bishop, but it backs up his knight on f6. Nice one, bishop to e2, ready to castle. And off the shoot, here he goes, c5. Now I knew he was coming after me. And Bobby and I have gone back and forth. Gosh, I bet you we played 20, 30 tournament games together over the years. We're probably about even wins and losses. Not many draws. I castled. I thought to myself, even if he took here on d4, I'd still be okay, or he pushed his pawn to here to lock me up. I mean, my light squared bishop still has, some scope here. My other bishop's outside the pawn chain, so I wasn't worried about either. He went a6. Now, according to the computer, it says controls b5. Okay, that might be a good spot for my knight in the future, so I took that space away. And I went b3. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm trying to think now why I did that. I mean, if I was going to do a c-pawn push, my knight's in the way. And it'd take me another move to move the knight, and then you got to find a decent square for the knight. I probably should have left the pawn where it was. Anyway, the computer suggests instead of b3, if I had gone d takes, bishop takes, bishop to d3, getting the bishop in play, and he went at bishop d7 is basically equal. I'm looking on the computer here, and it's about a quarter of a pawn for white, which we all know is basically not much. He played c takes. Now the computer suggests two moves: one, queen takes d4, and knight takes d4. I'm surprised it doesn't pick that the e-pawn takes. And I gave this some thought. I wanted to get the queen in play, get her out in the middle of the board, maybe harass his position a little bit. And of course he harassed my queen right back. So I moved her down to d3. And we're kind of getting settled in. I mean, we're getting the opening done with, and we're about ready to both be castle, and all the minor pieces are going to be developed, and then the real war starts. And if you move fairly quickly at this stage of the game, the time controls, anybody that's wondering, are I call game 75, which means, for those of you that don't know, each side gets 75 minutes on their clock. And if you do have a digital clock, you are allowed to use a 5-second delay as well. No increment, and only one time control. Now we're looking at a move after white's queen to d3. Sorry for the small pause there. There's a little editing in the video. He went queen to c7, which makes perfect sense because he's trying to open up. He's got his only open file here, and he's probably going to move his rook to this square here later and put pressure on that file. It's the only open file he has, and it makes perfect sense. I went bishop there just to harass his queen, and he moved bishop to d6. Now, I thought about this for a while, just to leave it, let him trade. But technically, that is his good bishop. Reason being that both his center squares are on light colors, center pawns are on light colored squares, and his dark squared bishop makes it his good bishop. So I took it, and he retook with the queen. Now this is a move that's probably counterproductive. I could see some of the harassment of the queen coming, maybe with his knight coming here. I really didn't want that hassle, so I moved my queen back to d1. Kind of a wasted move. Vladimir Kramnik, former world champion, said chess is a game of tempos. And when you do moves like that, the waste moves, in essence what you're doing is you're giving your opponent 2 moves in a row. So those of you, think about that for a minute. How would you like it if your opponent moved 2 times in a row? When you make a move like that, it's in essence what happens. A suggestion from the computer, instead of queen to d1, would be e4, which is interesting because he cannot take pawn takes pawn here because of the fact his queen is loose. It's got nothing to guard it. And I probably should have done that. I may recall looking at that when I played, and the continuation would go castle, rook a to d1, and rook to e8, which is a much better continuation than what I had. Needless to say, I went queen to d1, he went knight to e5. Just knight in a central spot. I played knight takes, he played queen takes. Okay. It was a fairly even game. Same color bishops, we each have a knight, both our rooks and queens are on the board. There's no isolated pawns. I mean, everything's okay. You can't see it on the screen, but the computer shows a minute advantage for white. So small, it's not even worth mentioning. I went knight to a4. I figured one of two spots here. Either this spot here or this spot here with my knight would be a good spot in the future. I know you shouldn't put your knight on the edge of the board. How does it go? A knight on the rim is grim. But I think in this case it was worth it. It got him out. The queen was attacking it rather than defend it. Try to put it somewhere where it will do some good. He went queen to c7. Now this is a move here. I'll bet 1/100th of a second after I did it, I thought to myself, why did I do it? I went knight to b2, which blew my entire advantage. It was basically even. The computer suggests queen to d4, queen here, or b4, which I thought was interesting. Building a spot for the knight here as for an outpost. I know when I did it, my thinking was at the time I was going to push my c-pawn to here, and he'd have to take or cause an isolated pawn. Even if he didn't, his knight would take, and I would have a nice open file here. And if he did take, I can take with my knight or my bishop. I mean, that was my thinking. He moved the bishop to d7, completely ignoring it, and I went c4. I'll figure go along with my plan. He went rook to c8. Now, frankly, if I took now, pawn takes pawn, he's going to take with his knight. And that knight's going to be right in the center of the board in a really good square. So I kind of messed that up. I went rook to c1, of course. My threat now is pawn takes pawn, exposing the attack on his king. But what would have happened in the end, it would have been, you know, rook takes, or queen takes rook. And I'd have to take back, and we would have traded off. He went queen to a5. Now it's kind of awkward for me. How do I defend the a-pawn? I can't bring knight to here. He'll just snap it off with the bishop, double up these pawns, and this pawn is isolated. That was really foolishness on my part. But it happens. So I thought about this for a while. Let's put the queen in the center of the board and really try to go after him. I didn't really see much else. So I went queen to d4. He played queen takes a2. Now after he played queen takes a2, I was looking at a couple of things here. His queen's going to be in an awkward spot. My queen is guarding the knight. The b-pawn's a little loose, but if he doesn't play this right, his queen can be in trouble, so he has to be mindful of that. I played c takes. And this move really surprised me. I thought for certain he would play rook takes rook. I would just take back, and he'd be in an awkward spot. But he castled. And that took me completely by surprise. I said, okay. I mean, I'm down a pawn now. Or I should say I have an isolated pawn in the center. I'm going to lose it soon. What do I do? What do I do? That b-pawn isn't going to last long. My attack is basically gone because he castled. So I was a little disheartened, and I decided to close up the file at the same time, protect my b-pawn. So now my knight is protected. My pawn is protected by my bishop. This rook's protected by the other rook. And everything along here is all protected. There's nothing loose. Because if you see the next move that's next, coming up next, is rook to a1, trapping his queen. And when he went b5, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow. The computer suggests queen to a3 to save the best way to save the position. And that continuation would go after queen to a3 would be rook to a1, queen takes, rook takes, d takes, bishop takes, and it's basically even. But what did happen on b5, I immediately went rook to a1. I looked at it a little bit too, just in case I missed something, and there was nothing to miss. And he looked like, oops, what did I do now? I'm feeling pretty good at this point. The first game, I played the highest rated player in our section, the reserve section, and I won that game, the one I call Ghost, Ghost, Ghost. And here I am with a player I played many, many times, and I've got a really good position now. His queen is trapped. He plays queen takes a1, and I play rook takes a1. I'm feeling pretty good at this point. I'm thinking to myself, wow. I'm getting up from the board and taking a little breather, because I have a habit sometimes of when I'm starting to win and win big and I mess up. So he played b takes, he got the bishop. He played takes, I played c takes. Now I'm thinking to myself, this is beautiful. He's got a bishop, or excuse me, a rook and a knight, or a bishop against my queen. I'm a pawn up, and all of my pawns are connected. I have no isolated pawns. Right down the line, all connected. Beautiful, I'm thinking. This is beautiful. My thinking was so clear. I wasn't overconfident, but I felt really good. And he went bishop to b5, just protecting his pawn. I went e4. I'm going to probably move my f-pawn next to here, get everything all nice and guarded, get a nice, vast control of the center. He went rook f to c8. He's trying to desperately get some counterplay. The computer suggests instead knight takes c4, queen takes, rook takes, queen to d4. So after he went rook there, I move f3, not a problem. Rook to e2, and here it comes. Currently, you can't see it on the screen, but I am 3.3 pawns up, which we all know is a piece, a knight or a bishop. I got this beautiful position. All my pawns are connected. He's threatening to bring this rook here to here. What do? I can't really stop it. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So what I did was, I played rook to f1. Now folks, now you know why I call this video, What the Hell Were You Thinking? Because what happens next is very easy. He brings his other rook down. Well, let's go back here. When he went rook to e2. This is a one game for me. I got this incredibly dangerous passed pawn on the d file. I got another pawn here that I'm trying to move up here. I'm about ready just to smother this guy. And I got a little panicky. I got spooked. So I saw his other rook coming, and I don't have a light squared bishop. How do I guard the g2 square? What do I do? The simple move is knight to d1. And how simple is that? How simple would that be? It's amazing to me how you could not see this. Rook, queen a7. It's amazing to me how I didn't see that. And so here I am sitting there, and I got a one game, and I go rook to f1. He goes rook c, to c2. I'll just go through the rest of this. The only move I had was to block with the rook. Rook takes. Queen takes. Rook takes. King takes f2. a5. King to e3. a4. Then finally, knight to d1. The knight just figured out he can go to d1, which he should have done before. Bishop to f1. I go to guard the pawn. He moves the bishop. I move the king. And let's go through the next few moves. I have to sacrifice the knight. He takes g4. And knight takes d5. I retake. He takes with the bishop. He's a full bishop up. My heart was just broken. Oh man, I wasn't even mad. I was just, my heart was broken. I'm thinking to myself, you know, I dodged the bull in the last game. I'm up over a piece in score in this game, and I lose. Unbelievable. I shook his hand because he's a good guy. He's a good sport too, even when he loses and wins both. And I set the pieces back up. You know, I'm the tournament director, so I went behind my counter here at the store where my computer is, where nobody can really see you. And I just sat here and I stared. And I remember mumbling to myself, probably not really loud, but at least if you're within a few feet of me, what the hell was I thinking? Completely went blank in my mind. Had a one game and I missed. Well, folks, that takes care of this video. Remember, we're all amateurs. We're not grandmasters, and we're doing the best we can. And sometimes we look like we're the best players that ever lived, and sometimes it's like today. And that's the way it is. So I picked myself up. Now, there won't be a third round video from this tournament because I had a bye. So the next video come up will be round 4. There's 6 rounds in total. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember, folks, always stay focused. And if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye, folks.